So
Okay,
I need to be careful. Don't be naughty.
Me too. Me too.
yeah, exactly.
So I have to tell you that your character is one of those that give me, which I felt the more struggle. And I'm curious to know how much, in your opinion, is the sense of duty that drives his moves during the story, and the lack of bravery sometimes.
Yeah, brilliant question. I think he's terrified, isn't he? And I think there's sense of duty which is bestowed upon him is something that I don't think he would have chosen for himself. I don't think it necessarily suits his personality, which is why the idea of patriarchal lineage is just mind-boggling, because Eloise would have been the right person to head that family, as would Daphne, I think. And yet you have this young man at the head of the family who is emotionally really challenged. And yeah, I think he does struggle with bravery, but in order to be brave, I think you have to understand how you're feeling and how other people are feeling. And he lacks that empathy, which I think is probably quite common in a lot of men who don't have the ability to be able to talk about their feelings. Yeah.
And I mean, going in a period so far from ours, which is the hardest habit you had to go in and understand for yourself, for your character?
Do you know what's funny? Because I thought we were going to go in, and I think the sense of period dramas have always been like, God, it feels very sort of held, and that the etiquette has to be a certain way. But actually, we had a historian on set who was brilliant, and she was just like, "Hey, you just slouch around," especially the men. The men could just do whatever they wanted, which is infuriating for the women playing the also female characters. But I was surprised at how little I had to watch. It was only really in speech. Just making sure that there's so many ways in which we've evolved just certain sounds. I think we had the most amazing voice coach as well, so that was the main thing. And then obviously, I guess riding horses, I had to just mind my rising trot.
I think we were lucky in that our preparation was incredibly thorough. They had us in etiquette classes from day one in rehearsals, exploring how body language changes depending on if you're talking to the Queen or if you're talking to serving staff and everyone in between dukes and viscounts and viscountesses. And so there's this kind of very intricate language, but it also intersects with how you dance and kind of where you're allowed to flirt with people in the dance space and where you're not, how close you can be, how close you can't be, and then how that changes depending on if you ride horses or if you box or if you fence. And so I think just through infinite hours of just inhabiting these spaces physically, it all kind of falls into place.
What about you, Phoebe?
Yeah, I mean, same as Regé, we had so much. So we had etiquette training and dance rehearsals, and I really distinctly remember one of the days, they just brought us all together in a room and we like all danced together, and it was just a really good sort of threw us all into the deep end. And it was a really good way of sort of getting to know each other and finding the dynamics between the cast members. I remember being with the etiquette. We had a brilliant lady that was a historian, and she talks a lot about sort of what it meant to be a woman in the context of that time. And there's a lot of shocking things. I think it is really shocking to me that you would not know about sex as a young woman. You would just sort of go into a marriage not having a clue what that was. I mean, I think that's really shocking. And I don't know, women had a tough time. Like giving birth as well, that would not have been fun.
And that one is also the turning point of your character, right? When she knows.
I mean, it's why the story is so brilliant in a way, because you're discovering it with her, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of hard as a audience member in the 21st century to think about a world where you couldn't just Google something on the internet and find the answer. They were very much they had no idea, really, a lot of them, what they were getting themselves into.
And speaking of internet, do you think that today we can compare Lady Whistledown to the social media?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways we can. I think it's very tabloid-esque as well. It's very the celebrity culture, and how we can just sort of, you know, Lady Whistledown represents the person in a restaurant that sort of sees a celebrity and pulls out a phone and just videotapes them across the table. You know, it's very, it's a world that we've always loved to gossip. I think it's throughout history, and it's just, we've just done it in different ways throughout the years. So I think it's very tabloid-esque, and it's very telling of this social media and this sort of filter that we put on ourselves of displaying, you know, only one person, which is very much what Daphne does when she's out on the marriage mart. So yeah, I think there's a lot of themes that are very relevant to today.
Talk about, I think they both portray a side of feminism in some sense. So I would like to know your opinion about that. I mean, do you feel when you were acting, do you feel when you read the script, your reaction when you felt like, I mean, your message was huge?
When I think about sort of feminist narrative that both Penelope and Eloise carry, I tend to think about the Bridgerton brothers as well, and their exploration of, actually, they don't really like their set of responsibilities either. And I feel like rather than, yes, like Penelope and Eloise are really great, like sort of, they're sort of the megaphone at the front with like this narrative. But actually, I think everyone in their own way sort of shows how patriarchy is not massively working for anyone, even the people it looks like it's working for. Do you see what I mean? Like, yeah, so I think whilst I'm super pleased I got to play someone who's maybe a more explicit voice in that sense, I'm even more proud to be a part of an ensemble where they're all contributing to that narrative of freedom and expression and equality.
Thank you. And what about you?
I think that it's interesting because when you read the scripts, you take that away straight away. But when you come to filming the scenes and having the dynamic with one another, you have to forget about all of that, because you have to just think of them as two girls within the set of circumstances and just them having a conversation. I think because there can be a tendency sometimes in period drama to make people feel like statues and make them feel like they existed in a time that wasn't ours and they're not real. But this show, the script felt very real. The way that it was directed felt very real. So we wanted to bring that in. And then, you know, people, if they take that from it, that narrative, that would be amazing. But I think there's so much to take from the show as well. But like these two characters, they're a complete dream. We always say if we could choose what characters to play from the show, we would pick these two. So we're very lucky.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Oh,
Thanks
thank
so much.
you.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.